Good evening and welcome to After Hours. Welcome to the show, and I'm thrilled to have you here, Gary Allan. I am thrilled to have Tundra here, and I think we should talk about her first of all. Who is Tundra?
Who is Tundra? Well, it's a pleasure to be here and to bring Tundra. Tundra is one of 4 wolf dogs I have, and as you can see her, she's about 90% wolf. So for all intents and purposes, all her anatomy, his physiology is wolf, her behavior is wolf. I have them. I do education on wolves, so she's accompanied me today to come down here.
What would you say her unique characteristics are? And not necessarily in terms of wolf, because I'm sure they all have different...
Right, yeah. She's just an incredibly loving animal, very gentle. She of all the students, the schools we go to, she's interacted with 20,000 students, and they're just in awe of her. Very beautiful. I mean, her looks are very beautiful, and her demeanor in that. Wolves are an incredibly loving animal, and she exemplifies that so much, Patrice.
I would have thought she might be skittish. I sort of expected her to be a little more skittish back, but she was actually quite, not forward, but...
Yeah. When she was younger and when I first went to the schools, she would want to kind of skirt the kids and not have much direct contact. But she's just learned, that people are so loving towards her and so gentle towards her. So now she seeks them out, and when I go into the schools, she goes right to the students sitting there. So yeah, right now she's just laying down here and that, but
comfortable.
Yeah.
So what are hopefully she'll stand up at one point.
Sure.
She may or may not, and she's very tall, long legs, but it's very distinctive face. There's something different. It's not a dog per se. What is that?
Yeah, and that. Yeah, even when I brought her in here, people on the sidewalk that saw her, it's. I mean, if you look at her eyes, the eyes are distinctly wolf, and what they do is they look right through you, and that's that long muzzle that she has. So she has. Wolves have long muzzles, and right here is a bump on her head, and that's called the occipital crest, and that's where all these big, massive jaw muscles are attached. You're right. She has very long legs, narrow chest. That helps them, run very efficiently. The feet are right below the shoulders, so they're right in line, and so that makes it so that they can move 5 to 8 kilometers an hour, and they can travel 50 to 80 kilometers in a day, and that's how efficient these animals are. Yeah.
Now, my impression is anything that I've read or heard about wolves is that they're very social creatures, and very shy. For you to see one, if you're out in the wilderness or wild or even living out there, to see one would be like a miracle.
That's very true. It's they are very social. Their pack is a family group, and that they live within that family group. They'll live their whole lifetime. Some of them within the same family group. Some won't disperse. Some people have been in the bush. They hear them. You hear them howl. And that you won't see them. They're called kind of the ghosts of the forest, and that's very true. They're very reclusive. They don't want contact with humans because that's how they survive. Yeah.
I guess we'll get into more detail. I didn't mean to jump into this right away, but that was one of the things I thought about a wolf kill. Like how, if they're so shy and hidden, like how do they find them and keep them on track, per se?
Right, yeah. Well, they do it during the wintertime and from helicopters, right? So they can actually see the tracks in the snow. and know where they are. You know, here's what they do in that they will dart a wolf, a tranquilizer dart. They'll put a GPS collar on them, a radio collar, and that sends out 4 signals a day. And that, so if you have a laptop, and this is how they do their research, right? They can actually track where the wolf is going. This is what they're doing to kill them. You may have heard a term called Judas wolf, and what they do is they will target, let's say Tundra, if she was out in a pack, and they target her. They would hit her with the dart, sedate her, put this collar on her, and then let her go. And then she meets up with her to her pack. And then they come in, and then they kill the other members of the pack. They don't want to kill Tundra, because then they have to start the process again, right? So they'll kill, let's say there's 6 in the pack. They leave Tundra alone, they kill the other 5. And then what they're hoping is that Tundra is then going to go
and find another pack.
And that's why they call them Judas wolves. And here's another thing that they're doing that we're hearing. It's hard to, like to see that collar when you're up in a helicopter, probably, shooting and they're moving in that. They mark her, and one of the ways that we heard that they mark her is they'll cut off the tail.
That's used for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Actually.
So they will see that wolf running along without a tail, so they know that it's got the collar. Yeah. Yeah.
And so these helicopters are running them to exhaustion.
Yep.
Is that not true?
Yep.
And what do they, like, how close are they, for one thing, to get accurate shot, and what are they shooting them with?
Well, the helicopter pilots that I've talked to who don't do it but have heard, they're flying about 25 feet off the deck, off the ground, okay? And they've got, the shooters in there have got semi-automatic weapons. And so what they're trying to do is they'll try to get them out into the open and that, because if they're in there amongst the forest and that, very difficult to get a shot. So they get them out into the open, and they'll run them to exhaustion and either land and shoot, or they'll just kill them from the air, and then they'll move on.
So who are the people who are in, like, who do they hire? Who's actually making the decision to do this in government? Okay. And then who do they hire to do the deed?
Yeah, well, it's the Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations that's doing it. They have a mountain caribou recovery team. They're the ones that have decided to do this. The wolf management plan, the final one, is this one here. Has in it statements that they can do this aerial culling, despite the fact that when they asked for, this is the draft plan of this, so this is the draft, this is the final one. When they asked comments on the draft plan, they got over 2,500 comments in a 3-week period, and 1,614 of the comments, Patrice, were against the draft plan. They said, we want way more conservation measures in there. We don't want you to use poison. We don't want you to aerial shoot. We don't want you to hunt and trap during the pup rearing season. We don't want you to bait to hunt wolves. They'll put dead carcasses out on the lake, right? Lure them out there and then kill them. So that's the government. Then what they do is they hire helicopter companies, and the one that's known in the industry is Bighorn Helicopters out of Cranbrook. They're the ones that they were the ones that did the one in Alberta. It's been ongoing for 7 years, and they apparently are the ones that did the South Selkirk around Creston. I mean, Cranbrook's very close to Creston. Yeah.
So in Alberta, if they're doing the wolf kill, is that for the ranchers, or is that for caribou or wild animals as well? And how is that working?
Oh, well, yeah, that's, again, it's to, because the mountain caribou have been determined under the SARA, which is the Species at Risk Act, to be endangered, they're wanting to kill the predators, and mainly the wolf. That's the one that they target. They've spent 7 years in the trying to protect the Little Smoky herd, which is near Grand Cache, between Hinton and Grand Prairie, in that area. They've killed over 1,000 wolves, about 700 and some odd from the air. They're using strychnine out there to kill some of them. And of course, that's having collateral damage.
I would think. I was going to ask that.
Other animals are being in that. And they had a report that came out, though, in the fall. And despite the fact that they've killed all these wolves, the caribou population has not increased. And it's not because of the wolves, it's because we've destroyed, through industrial activity, the habitat of the caribou, whether it's the woodland or the mountain. Now, the mountain caribou is just an ecotype, a subspecies, special subspecies of the caribou. And that the caribou is not endangered in BC. There's 16,000 to 27,000 of them. But these small mountain caribou herds, that like the South Selkirks, 18 of them left. They're
talk about what they need in their habitat and what's disappearing and why.
Yeah. Well, what they do is, if I got some pictures here, I think it was in here.
I know they were just there. You go.
Yeah. So here's a picture here. This is near Creston. Okay, so this is sort of one valley over from the South Selkirk. Tundra's getting herself comfortable here. So you can see all the cut blocks.
Yes,
and that.
Clear cuts.
Yeah, the clear cuts. That's destroying the mountain caribou habitat. They want it, they can only eat the arboreal lichen, which only grows on old growth trees.
So even selective logging doesn't work.
Yes, and that even selective logging, there's a report here, from 1979 that said that selective logging, if in their winter feeding ground, will put that herd in peril, and this is what they're doing to it, and also they can't hide from the predators,
right.
And that caribou are a very lonely ungulate, if I can use that. They don't want to associate with moose and deer because they know that the wolves are with the moose and deer. So they have all these anti-predator strategies of staying in the forest. That's where they eat and that. But when we start doing this kind of alteration to their landscape, it means that the wolf can now find them easier. The roads go right into there, and that snowmobilers will compact the snow because the mountain caribou are up in mountains, even in the wintertime, and that because the arboreal lichen are at the top of the canopy of the trees, so they need the snow kind of as a ladder, and then they eat that. I mean, there's arboreal lichen further down, but that's where the bulk of it is. And so, most ungulates are down in the valleys in the wintertime because of the snow and the predators down there. The mountain caribou are up in the mountains to keep away from the predators, whether it's the wolf or a cougar or whatever in the winter. And that snowmobilers go up there, well, they make a paved highway. So these can walk right up to where and so what we've done is the strategies that wolves and caribou and that have used for years to kind of keep themselves separate from the caribou's perspective, right? They don't. The wolves coming around. The wolves want to eat them a bit, but it's only like about 10% of their diet in most of the cases. So now we've altered things so significantly to the detriment of the caribou. But the other thing you have to remember in here, this is a multi-predator system, Patrice. This is not just
the wolf.
The wolf. There are cougars there. There are lynx. There are black bear and grizzly in the after they hibernate. The cougar, and in fact, in that area, the South Selkirks and that, it was the cougar that was the main predator.